here's the plan. This is straight from the White House. You've got 20 points to this, and I won't go through every single one of them. I'll try and summarize them, but they matter a great deal. Because look, the hesitancy, including some of the hesitancy I'm detecting in the chat, I'm right there with you. You get nervous about this because you've seen it. How many times have you seen this? The rug pulls like crazy. So you don't think President Trump is thinking about this? You don't think that he's contemplating the fact that things could go south? He definitely is. And here's why I've got some confidence today. Let me go through the 20 points here that the president has for ending the conflict. One, he says, look, Gaza needs to be de-radicalized. Got to get rid of all the terrorism. That's Hamas, by the way. Got to get rid of Hamas. You got to get rid of the terrorism in the zone. Gaza has to be redeveloped. It's a beautiful oceanfront property on the Mediterranean. Bring it back, get it up and running, make it beautiful, redevelop it for the benefit of the people of Gaza. He says if both sides agree to the proposal, the war immediately ends. And that's where we are right now. Both sides are agreeing at this hour. Israeli forces will withdraw to an agreed-upon line to prepare for a hostage release. In other words, the Israelis will begin phasing out of Gaza, inch by inch, foot by foot, line by line, as the hostages are released. They want to get these hostages out. And during this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, suspended. Battle lines remain frozen until the conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal from Gaza. Within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, which, by the way, they did yesterday, all the hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. So a clock has begun. 72 hours is running. You got to get everybody out. Once all the hostages are released from Gaza, that's when Israel is going to, in turn, release 250 life sentence prisoners, plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th of 2023, including all women and children detained in that context. So that, obviously, you can tell that's going to be a sticking point in this fight. Right now, Israel and Hamas, through their mediators, are they're very much debating, quibbling about which people are going to be released. If you've got life sentences, I mean, we're talking about some hardened terrorists that Hamas once released. Remember, October 7th itself was led by a guy who was released in a prisoner swap. So, Israel is coming into this with, obviously some trepidation about, okay, what? We're going to release these guys? But they're doing it because they want to end the war and they want these hostages back. So this is a deal that they're agreeing to. There's going to be exchange of remains as well. That's a huge deal. There's lots of dead people in this conflict. Once all the hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons, get rid of their weapons, will be given amnesty. That's how you get amnesty. Get rid of your weapons. Lay down your arms. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will then be provided safe passage to receiving countries. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. That means, food, water, electricity, sewer, hospitals, bakeries, restoring roads. Also, they want to make sure that they get a bunch of aid in that hasn't been getting in. Remember, Hamas was stealing a lot of the aid, too, that was trying to get into the zone, leaving so many of the people in Gaza desperate and without the resources that they needed. Gaza is going to be governed. This is the key, guys. This is the key. This is where I'm going to really get into a detail that will give us some degree of, okay, I see what Trump is doing. Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. He says the committee is going to be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts, and there's going to be an oversight board called the Board of Peace. Now, who's the chairman of the Board of Peace? Donald J. Trump. President Trump will run this new international transitional body that oversees the affairs of Gaza. So he's not just handing it over to the UN. He's not handing it over to some other ridiculous bureaucratic international body that in the end just serves like George Soros' globalist intent. Donald Trump is going to run the operation here to make it work. And he's going to include a bunch of other people, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair, to be a part of it. So that's one. Trump stays involved in this. And they're going to work on economic redevelopment, these types of things. The other thing that really stands out here, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to point 15 now to share with you, is the United States is going to work with Arab and international partners to develop what they're referring to as a temporary international stabilization force. That's a fancy way of saying the military, to immediately deploy in Gaza. The ISF, this group they're calling the ISF, will train and provide support to vetted Palestinian police forces in Gaza and will consult with Jordan and Egypt, who have extensive experience in this field. This force will be the long-term internal security solution. The ISF will work with Israel and Egypt to help secure the border areas, along with newly trained Palestinian police forces. It is critical to prevent munitions from entering Gaza and to facilitate the rapid and secure flow of goods to rebuild and revitalize Gaza. A deconfliction mechanism will be agreed upon by the parties. Okay, so what this is, the reason this matters so much is what the president decided to do some time ago. He's like, you know what? None of this is working in the Middle East. Like this whole thing, like we're going to have a grand plan. We're going to get every country to do a deal with Israel and recognize its existence and establish peace. None of that is working. So what did we do in Trump 1? In Trump 1, they set up something called the Abraham Accords, right? Where they get individual countries one by one to begin recognizing that Israel really is a place that exists and that they should normalize relationships with it. So they did. The fruits of that labor are now being felt in this peace deal. President Trump is getting the Arab countries, he's getting the Middle Eastern countries, all in the region, to commit to provide security forces to go in and to police Gaza. So it's not just going to be Hamas that gets to call the shots. In fact, Hamas is being excluded. They're being kicked out of the process. You've got now an international body that's going to run the operations in Gaza, and they're bringing in Muslim, Arab police forces to manage the region. That's the goal. The more civilized Arab forces to run the region. Is it perfect? No, there's no such thing. But the president of the United States believes in this plan. He's provoking its existence. He's the one who negotiated it. He's the one who landed it. Now, you might be skeptical of this, and you're right to have skepticism. I have skepticism too. And if this thing falls apart, I won't be surprised in the end. But this is the closest thing to a real solution that anybody's presented in a very long time. And how do I know that? Well, I don't know. Just ask people in Israel right now. In Israel, overnight, billboards have gone up saying, thank you, President Trump. We love Trump. Israelis are being interviewed on the street, some of them who don't even like Benjamin Netanyahu, and are saying, Donald Trump deserves the credit for ending this. Thank you, President Trump. People were singing overnight near Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, grateful that the hostages are the most likely now to be released that they've seen in this entire conflict. That's a huge deal. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of this, Hamas has agreed to the deal. They're on board right now. Is it tenuous? We'll see. But at the moment, they're on board. Here in the United States, of course, Republicans and people in Congress are very much celebrating President Trump right now, saying that he secured a meaningful peace deal here. But one of the crazy things that's even happening at this moment is even Democrats are saying things like, "Oh yeah, Trump kind of deserves credit actually for this." And it's wild, including some of his most ridiculous critics. This is so. Look at this one. Let me put this up, fellas, on screen. This is CNN last night. Abby Phillip, who's awful, and she's got Congressman Dan Goldman of New York on the Levi Strauss Air, and even Dan Goldman of all people's like, Trump did this. And he kind of deserves credit. If a Democrat is limping into that statement, it means Donald Trump deserves immense credit.
That this was not doable when President Biden was in office.
I think the biggest problem that the President Biden had is there was no pressure from Qatar, from Turkey, from Egypt. They were actually facilitating in many ways what was going on. And that is really ultimately how it all came together.
So, but I think by saying that, it's sort of an acknowledgement Trump has changed that dynamic.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that,
he's clearly,
I don't know how he, and I think there's a lot that remains to learn about what prompted that change, but I do agree, yes, somehow, some way that changed.
What was it, ladies and gentlemen? What was it? What was the somehow, some way? What was the thing? What was the one variable that changed internationally that brought us to this moment that has Dan Goldman struggling to find the words? A guy who hates everything about Donald Trump, who uses his every waking breath to attack the guy. What changed? Trump did. Trump did. Trump is the change. Trump is the change. We have a new president. He's in office. And let me emphasize one other point, and we've got a lot of other stuff to get to, but no matter where you are in the world on what's happening in Israel right now, this war that they've been fighting, whatever your opinions of that subject, I think most people, at least most decent people, they want the bloodshed to end. They'd like that to end. You don't want to see war. You don't want to see war in Ukraine. You don't want to see war in any of these places. You'd like the bloodshed to end, the human suffering to end. And what the President of the United States appears to have done here, again, this is the first phase. I'll continue to heavily qualify it because anything can happen, is he's begun to provoke the outcome that all people want, you would think. That normal, decent people want, certainly. Even indecent people have been demanding this outcome. Think about the lunacy on the college campuses we saw throughout Biden, certainly in the beginning of the Trump administration, as you get like these harebrained lefty radicals smashing windows at Columbia saying, free Gaza, end the war, free Gaza, genocide, all this garbage that they keep yelling, the Zordon Mamdani types up in New York, all those people. Are any of them going to thank President Trump for this? Are any of those lunatics going to step forward and go, actually, President Trump is the greatest president of our lifetime? He produced the outcome that I wanted, which was an end to the war in Gaza? Are any of them going to step forward and say that? Chat, you know the answer to this. Nope. Nope. Not one of them. No, Zordon's not going to step forward and say, you know what, Donald Trump deserves immense credit. He did it. The greatest president of my lifetime. Never. We're living in this wild moment where President Trump is the one who did it. Yet again. He did it. Will he be given the credit he deserves? Not in this age. You can give him credit. I'll definitely give him credit. And God willing, history gives him credit in immense ways. But thank you to President Trump for doing this yet again and for fighting for this. If he can land this thing, it's one of the biggest deals that you and I will ever see in our lifetime. And I'm hopeful. And as always, resorting to prayer that it works.